This is India, fabulous India, land of 10,000 temples, land of untold riches, magnificent pageants, land of exotic bazaars crowded with colorful people, graceful women in silk and saris, of strange old men with mysterious powers, of reminders of ancient glory, Humayun's tomb, the Qutb Minar, the Pearl Mosque, the Taj Mahal,
But this is also India. By far the greater part of our people live in the village. Of our nation of 355 million people, second only to that of China, nearly 300 million spend their lives here, crowded under the tiled or thatched roofs of 700,000 villages, plying their trades or toiling in the surrounding fields. This story is about village life, and about some young men and women who have dedicated themselves to help improve the lot of the village people. In the province of Uttar Pradesh, they have come to be known as the Gaon Sathis, the friends of the village.
My name is Ajaib Singh. My profession was that of a government clerk for central publications in Delhi. I sat behind a desk and put my signature on papers handed to me, papers that were then forwarded to others to be signed again or filed away. It was not until the war, when I joined the army, that I really came to know the village. It was then that I saw not reports, but people, village people, who followed their old trades much in the same manner as their fathers had, and their fathers' forefathers before them, and as their children would after them. I saw them spinning the fine thread from the cocoon of the silkworm. I watched the old men who make the clay vessels that are used by villagers and city people alike. Once a week, they would carry their wares to the nearest marketplace, often many miles distant, to sell, and in this way earn a few rupees, with which to buy the things they could not grow or make themselves. I saw those whose trade is to dig the water wells. They were of the lowest caste, coolies, without a home, moving about in a group from village to village, wherever their services were needed, living in huts of bamboo leaves and grass, outside the village, apart from the village people. Keep our fields and orchards green and fertile, much irrigation is needed throughout a good part of the year. In India, we have known and used irrigation for many centuries. But in many parts of our country, our methods have not yet improved with the increased need for food. Water is still raised to the surface, bucket by leaky bucket, much of it being lost before it reaches the fields. other regions, Persian wheels are used to draw irrigation water, but this is also slow. In the dry season, the soil is very thirsty, and it may take a whole day to irrigate just one plot of ground. Because he has no machines, the farmer must depend on a good team of oxen to help him, or on a camel. A camel will be blindfolded, and it will walk in the circle for many hours without an attendant, while oxen must be driven all the time. Oxen can be bought for 500 rupees. A camel costs 1200 rupees. Not many farmers can afford a camel. Our soil is heavy and rich and fertile and can produce 2 and often 3 crops a year. But the tools most farmers use are of ancient design. Their plows merely scratch the soil. They do not turn it over. It is one thing to read about the labors of the village people and quite another to see them laboring. To watch them sweating for hours in the midday sun, ceaselessly pitching water from the village tank into the parched soil to save the thirsty crops. I came to understand that for our village people, time had stood still much too long. That it was for reasons like these that India could not produce enough to feed herself and must depend on imports from abroad. That it was not laziness but lack of knowledge that kept our people poor. It was not until long after the war had ended and India's independence had been proclaimed that I thought about these things again. I had settled in Calcutta and established a trade business between that city and Allahabad. It was shortly after I got married that I read an advertisement in a newspaper calling for young educated people to come to Allahabad Agricultural Institute to be trained as teachers and helpers for village people. But my wife, a school teacher, was not happy when I spoke to her that we must do this. She said she was a woman of the city, and it took much persuasion before she was willing to leave. On the train to Allahabad, I spoke to her further about the things I knew of village life. I pointed to the barren soil and said, "How can India be free if there is so much good land that lies waste?" But my wife saw only the lush green fields that were under proper cultivation, and she remarked how rich the country looked. Late in the afternoon, when our train neared Allahabad, it passed close by a village. My wife looked long at this, and then she asked me if this was the kind of place I expected her to live in and bring up a family. We stayed at Allahabad that night, and in the morning we hired a rickshaw to take us to the institute, which was several miles outside the city. Our rickshaws are now of the bicycle type, because under our new constitution, a law says that no man in India should pull other people on foot like a beast of burden. We arrived at the institute at the appointed hour and asked where we could find the leader of this project, one Shri Chitamba, who had answered my inquiries from Calcutta. We did not have to wait at all. We were shown to a veranda where the interviews were conducted by a small committee.
There were 3 people facing us. 2 were men from our country. The third was a woman, a foreigner. The men asked many questions about us and why it was that we were willing to do this village work, and they all took many notes. Shri Chitamba, a tall man who was the overall director of this program, spoke to us that this was hard work, and he looked at me very earnestly, saying that life in a village would be very difficult for a lady from the city. He asked if we knew the Dehati dialect spoken in this region, and my husband answered that he did and that I was learning it. They spoke much about the need of women to teach the women of the village, where it is improper for a man to speak to a woman not of his family. And when I was asked again, I said that I would gladly serve together with my husband. It was soon thereafter that our training as Gaon Sathis began. Most of our classes were held in the open, in the orchards or the fields, because most of our village work would be outdoors. Of 800 applicants, only 44 had finally been selected, 30 single men and 7 couples. Mr. and Mrs. Shyamlal, Mr. and Mrs. Udaiban Singh, Mr. and Mrs. Mode, my husband and I, Mr. and Mrs. Dwivedi, Mr. and Mrs. Daniels, and Mr. and Mrs. Srivastava. We were taught about many subjects. In sanitation class, we learnt of the dangers of open drainage ditches, breeding grounds for malaria mosquitoes, and how to build soap pits to replace them, and the use of a new malaria drug called paludrine. We were told about green manure and compost heaps. We were taken out into the fields to learn about pest control, from the spraying of crops to the killing of rats.
We men were taken to the workshop of the institute to learn how to handle simple tools. This was not easy, for most of us had never worked with our hands before. It was said that every man Gaon Sathi must learn how to assemble and repair the simple plows that we were to teach the villagers to use. We had to accept instruction from a common laborer, a low-caste man, while among us there were Kshatriyas and even Brahmins.
We discussed the very low rate of literacy in the village and had a class called Home Economics. We were encouraged to do knitting during our classes, and the men had to learn this also. Gandhi ji taught that the hands can create something useful even while the mind is working at something else.
At midday, when we thought of eating and resting, as we had in the city, all the men were ordered to the cattle shed to sweep out the dirt and to scrub the animals. Some of us felt deep humiliation over having to wash a cow. But we had learned about diseases coming from unsanitary milk, and it was said that we could not teach the village people to do that, which we would not do ourselves.
Under the blazing afternoon sun, we were taken to the Ara fields and made to pull out the weeds with our bare hands. It was the head man of the coolie women, hired to do this kind of work, who ordered us about and shouted to us to get on faster. But we remembered that in the new India, the caste system is outlawed, and we knew we had to learn to humble ourselves. And then came the day of our last meeting. Our training was completed. We all rose to recite the creed of a Gaon Sathi, a prayer and a promise we ourselves had written.
I believe in village life, that it can be rich, full and wholesome. I believe in village people, in their ability to solve their own problems. I believe in my own work, in the opportunity it affords to be of service to others. Therefore, in all my work, I shall seek at all times to be friendly, to be honest, to be sincere, to be humble.
The following day, we bade our leaders farewell, Sri Koshi, Sri Chitamba, and the American woman, whom we all called Molly. We had received bicycles on which to travel to the villages where we would live, and to the other villages for which we were responsible, about 8 for each Gaon Sathi, 400 altogether. During the training period, the men had been taken to the villages once to look for a place to live, and it had been arranged that the institute would send our belongings to us when we were definitely settled. At the end of each day, we all were to write in detail about our experiences in the villages, what we had seen, whom we had met, and about all the problems that might have come up. After a month, we were to meet again at the institute to discuss these reports together and to work out our problems. were tired when we reached the village of Dashmi Purva, having travelled for several hours. But my husband spoke that he thought it was not far to our destination, namely Kanpur. He inquired about this of a villager, as he was not sure of the direction. This man gladly pointed out the way and said that we could reach Kanpur in 30 minutes. He said where to leave the road, as there was but an ox cart trail to this village. At last, we came to the end of our journey. My husband said, "This is Kanpur, a group of mud houses at the end of a mustard field." Now our new life was to begin. Between rows of half-dry, evil-smelling, fly-covered cow dung patties that the village women make with their bare hands and which are used for fuel to cook with, we made our way to the village. A farmer sat by the road smoking his hookah, but he was not friendly and pretended not to see us. Then we came into the village of Kanpur. I walked behind my husband, because this is how it is done in the village. A young lady came from the well with water, but did not speak. We saw cattle living among the people, attracting many flies. The old man with whom my husband had spoken previously was sitting on a khatia by his house. We greeted him, and my husband asked about the house again. They spoke about the price of rent, and Sri Chandra Mishra said he could not ask much because it was but one room next to his cattle stalls. My husband explained that we were very tired and asked to borrow a bed to sleep on and a blanket until we had some of our things. To this, Sri Mishra agreed readily, and we followed him to our new home. Today, the truck from the institute brought our belongings. Now we are trying to get acquainted with Kanpur and its people. Not far from our house is a field of sugarcane, which is being harvested now. The people seem very busy there, too busy to talk. Some children are in the field also. They are not clean. We must talk to their parents about teaching them, as is done in the cities. The small girl's face was marked from a disease. On the other side of Kanpur is a place where bricks are made. Some of the village men work there because the yield of their land is not sufficient to support their families. This work is quite unpleasant and not healthy. The clay must be taken from wet pools so that it will be soft enough to press into the mold. If it is too wet, it will stick. My husband said he learned that one man can make 400 bricks if he works from early morning until the sun sets. The pay is 4 rupees for 1,000 bricks, or 1 rupee and 8 annas a day. A sudden rainstorm may destroy a day's work.
Today we went to Bansepur, one of our 8 villages. On the way we paused to watch the processing of the sugarcane. This is done in the fields. The crusher is usually set up near a water well. It is kept working by a team of oxen. My wife remarked that a woman with a baby should not be made to drive the oxen around in the circle in this hot weather, with the dust hurting the child's eyes. An old man was feeding the cane to the crusher, while a younger one removed the waste matter. They had to bow low each time the beam came around. My wife said, "Working all day like this, how can I speak to her about learning how to keep diseases from her children or to be made ready to read and write?" The old man could not work too long in this heat, so a small girl took her turn at the crusher. One woman was busy at the well, which was quite deep. They did not use oxen for this because their 2 teams were used in turns at the crusher. The water was needed to boil down the sugar juice and also for all the people to drink. They were always thirsty. My wife said, "How can these ladies carry such heavy loads all day without suffering in their health? They must be taught not to wash their clothes and their dirty hair by the open well if they use the same well water to drink and to cook." Then we continued to Bansipur. We reached the village of Bansipur in the afternoon. We saw several people working by the well. Because this is a good place to talk with the ladies, my wife said she would speak to them about arranging for meetings. When we had reached the well, she went to one of the ladies working there and asked if she could talk to them about sanitation. The woman said, "We have heard about you. Go away and do not return." And my wife withdrew hastily. The woman spoke after us in ridicule, saying, "Is it that her husband cannot support her, that she must work? Perhaps she wants to speak to our men also." We then left this village because no one cared to speak to us. Similar experiences happened in other villages, and we often felt discouraged returning to Khanpur with failure. But we tried to remember Shri Chitambar's admonition. Be patient. The village is slow to change.
This is our 3rd week in Kanpur. This village is very unclean. The fields are our lavatory. To wash ourselves, we must carry buckets of water into our yard. The people are still not friendly. Some of the younger men have spoken briefly with my husband. It is easier for him going out by himself, being a man. The ladies of our village do not call me with bad names, but they will also not speak. I tried to speak to one of the younger ladies, but when she saw me nearing her house, she went inside and closed the door. Even the children turned from me. I hate the village.
It is perhaps because we have to live in such a little house that does not provide us enough room and comfort that my wife does not seem happy. But with success, her mood may change. Today I met Shri Mata Prasad, who was on his way to plough a field. Because he carried the plough on his back, this was a good time to speak to him about better methods. I explained that now there is a better plough, which is also cheap, and that using it will increase his crops. Shri Prasad said he had heard about this, and he listened politely as I told him how this new plough could make deeper furrows and turn the soil over because it had a curved blade instead of merely a sharp point. I then said that I was going to bring such a plough from Allahabad Institute, and he could plough half a field with the old plough and the other half with the new. "Nahi, nahi," said Shri Prasad. "I do not wish to try any of the new things you always speak about." Yes, the village was slow to change. When I came home after this, I found my wife sitting in the yard. She was dressed in a white sari, which is not used for work. I asked if she was sick and could not work, but I knew it was not that she was not well. I then spoke to her in a joking way. "Get up," I said, "get up. What is it with you that you have become lazy and do not attend to your duties?"
I said, "It is not that I do not wish to work, but I cannot live in the village any longer. I did not want this. My place is in the city. Here I cannot be of use." My husband asked, "Why? How is it that you say this? Is it not that you spoke with pity of the dirty children who must work in the fields instead of being taught in schools? Is it not that you remarked about the women who pollute the well water? Is it not for you to teach them these things? Did we not promise to work for healthier conditions in the village so that there will be less disease? Have you forgotten this?" "No, it is not that I have forgotten," I said. "I have tried and tried and tried. But what am I to do for the dirty children if their mothers turn them away from me? What am I to do for the village people? What can I teach the man who covers his face when I walk by? What can I teach the women who slam the door in my face? I have not seen the light of kindness in any of these faces. Hardly anyone has ever spoken to me here. There is a wall between us and the village people. Do you not understand that I cannot stay here?" But then my husband spoke angrily and said,
"It is my will."
It was his will.
Today, all of us Gaon Sathis met again at the Allahabad Institute, according to plan, because a month had passed. This was called a retraining and reorientation meeting. We turned in our reports when we arrived, but they were not discussed until the second day, when Shri Chitamba said he had read some of them as time permitted. He wished to know if anyone wanted to bring up special problems in this meeting. Sri Sadiqi spoke. To him the villagers were most friendly, but they laugh at his new schemes. How is it that a man from the city comes to know more than we do about increasing our crops? Why should we plant our seed in rows? The birds will steal as many as they did before. They say, "How much of your land have you planted in this manner?" To this Sri Chitamba replied,
You should tell them that all these things have been tested here through many seasons, so that they will not suffer from bad experience.
Mr. Dwivedi spoke. The ladies say, "Why is it that we should try this new sanitation? Let us first see what others do." Shri Chitambad answered,
You must tell them that they are not the first to try this, and that this is being done in many places.
Mrs. Lal said, "Maybe other villages are friendlier. We may not even draw water from the well ourselves, because there are Brahmin families there, and we are of lower caste." Shri Chitamba replied,
Let the people learn to read. Soon they will know not to speak about caste.
Mr. Dwivedi said, "I asked the ladies if any of them were ready to read, so they could read books for preparing food. None were ready. They also replied, 'Reading is for those who are free. It is not for the farmers.'" Shri Chitamba spoke.
You will teach them that they are free, but you must be patient. You must humble yourselves. You must do this for India.
We have seen what is perhaps the first sign of friendliness. This occurred on our return trip from Allahabad to Kpur. Because of this mishap, we had to walk much. It was a very hot day. We were resting in the shade of a mahua tree. Sri Ramashankar of our village passed with his ox cart. He stopped and offered to take us back with him. This we accepted gladly. On the way, Sri Shankar spoke to us in a friendly manner. He inquired about this new scheme, and my husband explained the whole extension program. Sri Shankar said he would talk to others about it. He said it takes time to make a friend as it takes time to grow a tree. It may be that today I succeeded. Perhaps I shall be a teacher again. It happened that when I came from the well, I saw Mrs. Sukari working with the cow dung. I asked to be allowed to help her. Then I put my hands to the cow dung. She was surprised that I would do such dirty work, but everything must be learnt. Then I said, learning this from you, why is it that you cannot learn from me also? And I asked to make her ready to read and write. She said, the men can learn to read, but not the women. I then said, that is good. Do only men take food and not the women? Then she began to laugh and said, soon I will come. Today, Mrs. Sukari came to my house. My husband was outside putting together the plough which was sent by the institute. We then sat down and I told her about the primer. I explained how the primer is used. I gave her the chalk and showed her how to hold it. I said for her not to be afraid. Then Mrs. Sukari wrote her first word. Mrs. Sukari has come again, but now she is not alone. Mrs. Pandey has come also, and Mrs. Ramdel, and several others. They said, please teach us also. The older ladies want to learn.
Today we carried the plough to the field where Shri Prasad was working. Mr. Sukari was my helper. There were other people from Kanpur who wanted to see it work. Shri Prasad stopped his work to meet us. He bent down to look at the plough. I told the others to look at it also, and they did, feeling it with their hands. Shri Prasad to try this tool. He was now willing to do it because the other farmers were watching. He took his plough away and tied the new plough to the oxen. Then I spoke briefly to the farmers and explained how this old plough does not let them take advantage of their good soil because it makes them use the same parts over and over. Your soil is rich underneath also, I said. This plough will bring it out. Then I spoke to Shri Prasad. Now start to plough. We can talk to them. Now they will listen. We say, let us help you make compost heaps. Using compost will give you bigger crops. We teach them about sanitation. We say, look at this model. Building a roof like this over your wells will prevent much contamination of the water. This is a small thing, but it will make your village more healthy. These are the things we Gaon Sathis teach, the small things, because many small things must be learned in many villages all over India before the big plan of the government can succeed. To make India truly free. We go from village to village and we say, your government is building irrigation dams and power projects and factories to serve you. Through us, your government wants to serve you also. Let us help you improve your soil. Let us show you how vaccination will keep your cattle healthy. Let us bring to you improved seed that will stay free from rust, seed that will give you a better and larger yield. Let it not be said that India is poor. India is rich. Soon India's earth will bring forth more food, enough wheat and rice and everything. Let us speak to you all. Let us plant the seed of knowledge among you, the people of the village.
इसको तालाब मत कहो ये माता की तस्वीर है.
Then let us work together. For all this we must do for India.
I believe in village life, that it can be rich, full and wholesome. I believe in village youth, in their longings for opportunity, and in the fulfillment of their right for trained minds, healthy bodies, and clean hearts. I believe in village people, in their ability to solve their own problems, and in their power to develop their lives.
एक एक बूंद पर गर्दनें चढ़ाएंगे, एक एक बूंद पर गर्दनें चढ़ाएंगे. अपनी मिट्टी के लिए मिट्टी में मिल जाएंगे, अपनी मिट्टी के लिए मिट्टी में मिल जाएंगे. आंधी से लड़ते जाएंगे, हम आगे बढ़ते जाएंगे, आंधी से लड़ते जाएंगे, हम आगे बढ़ते जाएंगे. आज अपनी हड्डियां हर कदम बिछाएंगे, आज अपनी हड्डियां हर कदम बिछाएंगे. बढ़े चलो, बढ़े चलो.
child will be a child of the village, where everyone is our friend. Shri Prasad is our friend also. He who was the first to use the new plough. Be blessed, he says. Be blessed, Gaon Sathis. Now I do not need to walk behind my husband. Now I walk with my husband.